Peace and power, y'all. This is your brother, Baba Amin Ojuok. Um, Number one, giving honor and grace and love to the Creator. Um, Many people call the Creator by many names. The Creator's been celebrated in many ways. Um, but y'all know what we talking about, that essence, that energy, that creation energy, that entity that brings everything about, that entity that built order out of chaos. Entity that put together this math equation that we call existence, right? Right. We pay homage to that entity because it's through that math equation that we're able to be here. It's through that math equation that we have the gift of thought and the gift of reasoning. It's through that divine math creation that we have the capacity to love, that we have the capacity to give, that we have the capacity to somewhat determine our destiny and determine our fate. And so, whenever we begin an endeavor, we have to honor creation. We have to honor the Creator. And I definitely believe in the unseen. I definitely believe that things exist that I can't see with my naked eye. Right. Because even though we can't see it, we definitely witness it. Right. And and we're still trying to figure it out. Right. So we definitely give honor to the Creator. We give honor to our ancestors who we invite to be with us and to guide us from their plane of awareness so we can be about the things that we're about and say the things that we're about to say. As African people, we recognize that we're only here because our ancestors were here. So who are we to begin any endeavor without honoring them first, right? And just real briefly, I like to honor my mother, Alice Baker, beautiful woman, raised her children, unselfish. And a lot of y'all know Black mamas like that, right? Right. A lot of y'all know people who have put it all on the line for you, that made it possible for you to be here. So we definitely take time out to honor our ancestors as well, and it's special for us as Black people to honor our ancestors because we have more ancestors than everybody else. Number one, we are the first people on the planet. We come from the first people on the planet. So our ancestral line is the longest in existence. It's also special for us because our ancestors actually survived the greatest human atrocity in history, and that's the Ma'afa. And so we definitely honor our ancestors this afternoon as well. Before we even get into our topic, you know what I'm saying? And y'all, whether you catch it live or whether you catch it later, I just wanted to come in and talk a little bit about Dr. King, a little bit about the holiday, about the narrative that's built around the holiday. I'm only going to be on for a few minutes. And Black leadership, right? Right. And when I say Black leadership, I'm not talking all Black leaders, but I'm talking mainstream Black leadership. I'm talking about the average Black city council member, the average Black mayor, the average Black governor, the average Black state senator, the average Black activist, as a matter of fact. You know what I'm saying? The average Black pastor, just I'm talking Black leadership in general. And we go through this weekend and we begin to honor Dr. King. And I ain't gonna lie, man, I do get a chip on my shoulder doing certain holidays, and this is one of them. And not because I don't honor Dr. King. I believe that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the greatest orator, speaker this planet has ever known. Dr. King could do some things with words, man, that I just found him captivating. I find him amazing, and everyone should study him and study his life, right? So I'm not here to criticize Dr. King. As we study his career, as we study his commitment to the community, you can see the evolution of Dr. King, of his philosophy, and what earmarked it. What earmarks Dr. King for honoring for me is that when he was at the pinnacle, when he was at the precipice where it was easy for him to sell out and just be a face for civil rights, a face for progress. You know what I'm saying? He bucked the system. He criticized the war in Vietnam. He declared that the next time he came to Washington, he's coming for the check. He was talking about fighting poverty. Capitalism don't like you to fight poverty. Capitalism don't like you to criticize wars because poverty and war make money. right. And so for Dr. King to get the Nobel Prize, to get to come into for him to get the privilege of coming into Congress or into the White House and shaking hands with the president as he passed the Civil Rights Bill, the powers that be felt that he owed them a debt. The powers that be felt that Dr. King owed them a debt because he was allowed to become famous. He was allowed to be the face of civil rights. He was allowed to stand there and shake Lyndon B. Johnson's hand and take credit for a civil rights bill. And so that should have been it. That was his payoff, right? That was his payoff. All right, you the number one. You number one. You the number one civil rights Negro in the world. Take that and roll with it, right? And what Dr. King quickly realized was that with that kind of notoriety came restrictions on what you can say. With that kind of notoriety, being the face of the United States, being the face of racial progress in the United States, you retired, you can't come out and start talking about United States foreign policy after that. You're a civil rights leader. How dare you come out and start criticizing United States foreign policy and talking about the United States shouldn't go to war in Vietnam? How dare you do that after we let you smile and be on TV and take credit for this progress? We're supposed to be taking this progress together. How dare you launch a poor people's campaign? How dare you walk around and start talking about black people should have their own banks and how dare you define integration as integrating at the top, integrating contracts, federal contracts and things like that? How dare you do that? How dare you try to add some substance to it? How dare you meet with the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and come out smiling? How dare you shake Malcolm's hand? How dare you not criticize the Black Power movement after everything that the establishment has done for you? So y'all, these people were not Dr. King's friend when he was alive. A lot of people who celebrate him now that were here back then, a lot of organizations that celebrate him now that were around back then, black ones and white ones, they were not celebrating Dr. King at the end of his life because he was growing in his politics and he was dangerous, right? He was dangerous, and the United States saw the danger, and they had to punish Dr. King. Now, and that's directly related to the point I want to make today. As people celebrate Dr. King. For you, the narrative that's taught, we're taught about the "I Have a Dream" speech, which he gave in 1963, 5 years before he was assassinated. He gave that speech, and we treated like he didn't have any other speeches. You understand what I'm saying? Listen to his last speech. Right. Listen to his last speech. Read some of his letters that he wrote from jail. Right. So you can see the evolution of Dr. King and where he was going. Man, look, these people have taken that narrative and they've reduced Dr. King to a slogan. I have a dream. And they just tell you, keep the dream alive. How you redeeming King's dream. And they pretend the King's dream is based on the 1963 speech. I have a dream, right? And so take that last excerpt of little black boys and little black girls playing together. And then so you encapsulate that. And so anytime you see white people and black people having a good time together, that's the dream. Whenever you see black people in traditional white spaces, that's the dream. Whenever you see interracial couples, that's the dream. Black people in white movies, that's the dream, right? That's the dream. That's keeping the dream alive. Whenever you see somebody giving a speech about how we all should come together, that's the dream. But is that the solution? See, the dream that they sold us on, that's the last few minutes of the "I Have a Dream" speech that he gave in 1963, right? That's not the actual solution. And so when we see things that have been characterized to us as his dream, we think we're seeing progress. But progress is measured by how closer you get to your solution, right? And as Dr. King grew, he recognized that the solution, and I don't think he ever thought that the solution was just black people and white people holding hands, singing "We Shall Overcome." Dr. King was talking about that work behind the scenes. Dr. King was talking about the contracts. Dr. King was talking about circulating the black dollar. Dr. King was like, yeah, we're going to all hold hands. We're going to hold hands on equal footing. And equal don't mean equal mean you treat me how I treat you. No, equal as in equity. Equal as in my strong community will sit down and do business with your strong community. That we're going to come at you with our leverage. You come with your leverage and we're going to create a deal. That's what we're talking about. That's what Dr. King was talking about. And that ultimately is what got him killed. So while we're celebrating that inspiration, you better believe that Black leadership sees Dr. King's life as a cautionary tale. Stay in line or get killed. Stay in your place or suffer the consequences. You are allowed to fight for your freedom non-violently only. Not only are you only allowed to fight for it non-violently, there are even certain non-violent acts that you can't engage in without being labeled militant, without being labeled extreme. There are certain things you can't criticize no matter how much it's harming your community, or you're going to be labeled militant, or you're going to be labeled extreme. So you best believe that while we're told to take the cue from Dr. King's life of nonviolence, our leadership is told to take their cue from Dr. King's death. While we're taught to be nonviolent, while we're pacified, while we've been given a dream, a curriculum, right, about Dr. King that pacifies us, that makes us soft, that makes us open and loving and not really paying attention, making us happy just to be in the room. While we're getting that, while we've been pacified by his life, our leaders have been neutralized by his death. Man, you can't do that. They'll shoot you. Man, you can't fight for reparations. Remember when Barack Obama was in office, was president? Prime example. Pacified by the dream, petrified by his death. Obama got in office and declared that he couldn't do anything specifically for Black people. Matter of fact, I remember Black leaders like Al Sharpton and others saying, what y'all trying to do? Get him killed? Y'all remember that? What y'all trying? You know, if he go in there saying he gonna advocate for Black people, that they gonna kill him, that he's gonna get killed. Well, where do we learn that from? What's the primary lesson? Where did our leadership learn that if you go around advocating for justice for Black people, that you could get killed? From King's death. So the current narrative on Dr. King has two goals, two primary functions: pacify the masses, petrify the leadership. I'm going to say it again: pacify the masses and petrify the leadership. So it's on us to teach a broader narrative on Dr. King's work and the people around him, because no man is an island. And Dr. King didn't achieve anything on his own. He had some great advisors around him, including Miss Ella Baker, who would also go on to found SNCC. And they say Ella used to be on King's head. They say Ella used to be on his head. She was one of the people that told him, when they come for you, when they come to offer you the brass ring, are you going to take it? Are you still going to speak the truth? Now, you best believe he had a lot of them around him saying, man, play the game, bro. Play the game. These Jewish organizations going to give us money. The government's going to get us money. These white foundations going to get us money. Man, play the game. But he had people around him, too, that say, man, this ain't no game. We fighting for the liberation of our people. You better tell the truth. And at the end of the day, he chose truth. Now, some people might say, well, he paid for it with his life. You always pay for life with death. Raise your hand if you're going to live forever. I ain't think so. No, what should happen is that they realize that if they kill one of us, 1,000 more gonna rise up. And yes, when best believe when they killed Dr. King in 1968, the Black Power movement, boy, black folks, we started growing afros, wearing dashikis. You know what I'm saying? There was an aftermath of cultural renaissance inside the black community in the midst of the assassinations of Malcolm X and in the midst of the assassination of Dr. King. There was a cultural pride and progress inside of our community that took this government years years to calm down. It wouldn't be until the late 70s and early 80s where you saw black people begin to start moving more towards an integration agenda again. So yeah, you're supposed to be inspired by his life. Your leaders are petrified by his death. But we need to speak more about his courage. We need to speak more about the courage of leaders like Dr. King, leaders like Malcolm X, leaders like Baba Sekou Odinga, and may he rise in power, leaders like Mutulu Shakur, Asada Shakur, who made it out, who's in Cuba. Leaders who laid it all on the line, whether you agree with the philosophy or not, they laid it all on the line clearly for our community, clearly laid on the line, fighting imperialism, fighting exploitative capitalism, laid it all on the line as young people and were willing to pay the ultimate price. You have to respect the courage. So that's my message for today. Don't just focus on I have a dream. And don't just focus on the violent nature of Dr. King's death. Study where he was before he died. Study why he became a threat, what made him a threat to this society, because many of the factors that he was fighting, they still exist today. Even if you're thinking about all the celebrity stuff that's been going on with Cat Williams and exposing and people exposing Hollywood. Hollywood is just a microcosm of the larger society. Your politicians go through the same thing, not so much where they got to go and do freaky deaky things to get on, but they have to make backroom deals. Backroom deals absolutely get made. You absolutely get sold out. Backroom deals absolutely get made. Remember when they grilled Obama, man, Obama had to renounce his whole preacher. Y'all remember that? Barack had to denounce his whole pastor before he could be president. He had to call his pastor Jeremiah Wright a respected man, a veteran at that, a respected man, doing work in Chicago, doing work in one of the biggest black cities. Have been doing that work for over 25, 30 years, man. Obama was a puppy when his pastor started working with the people and trying to make life better for others. And they pressured Obama to the point to where not only did he denounce his preacher because his preacher criticized America. Because he criticized America. And in his criticism of America, he said God would damn America. Damn just means to condemn. Obama had to denounce this man. How dare you denounce him? He denounced his own pastor on TV. Said he kind of like that drunk uncle. Y'all remember when he disrespected that man? Yeah, that's not Dr. King courage. Dr. King wouldn't have been proud of that. No, he wouldn't have been proud of that. You know. This past week was Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad's birthday. Yeah, he did a whole speech about God damning Europeans. He has a right to make that speech. You don't have to agree, but he has the right to make that speech. Obama couldn't even exercise his right to go to church and pick his pastor. He had to denounce his pastor or else. You see, for black leadership, Dr. King is a cautionary tale, not an inspiration. And that's something that's a good question to ask the next candidate that's running for something, running for office in your community. Ask respectfully. When you look at the life of Dr. King, do you see a life of inspiration or do you see a cautionary tale? Do you see speaking the courage, the beauty of courage and speaking truth to power? Or do you see a cautionary tale? Do you see the consequences of speaking truth to power? Are you willing to speak truth to power in the face of potentially violent power? Are you willing? Are you willing to speak for us even if they come after your reputation? Are you willing to speak for us if they threaten your business? Are you willing to speak for us if they're gonna lie on you? Are you still willing to speak for us? Because if you're willing to stand up for us, we'll stand up for you. And if they take you out, we'll honor your family. If they take you out, we're going to keep marching. We're going to continue to fight. We're not going to push you up there. Like, it's one thing about Dr. King at the end of his life, he wasn't exactly surrounded by soldiers. Many historians say he was surrounded by a bunch of leaders who didn't agree with him, but they liked the FaceTime. They wanted the attention. Opportunists. More people were relieved that he was killed than they would like for you to let on. So look at who your leaders are surrounding themselves with. And if they're not around strong people, then you stand with them. You be strong. That's one thing, y'all. When somebody does step up for us, we got to step up for them. If somebody does put it all on the line for us, then we have to put it all on the line for them. So when we talk about honoring the legacy of Dr. King or honoring the legacy of Malcolm, we're not talking about wearing a t-shirt. We're not talking about barbecuing. We're talking about working. We're talking about educating. We're talking about supporting businesses that support the community, supporting initiatives, starting initiatives that are supporting the communities. We're talking about supporting Black-owned businesses that support the community. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about that action, boss. Question your leaders. Get engaged. Get involved. And stop letting people get away with doing nothing and receiving everything. Stop giving. We got to stop giving of ourselves so much and demanding so little in return. We need to demand more from ourselves. We need to demand more for those who would exploit us. We need to demand more for those who will do business with us. And there are no excuses to be had. So what inspires you? The courage that it took to speak truth to power? Or are you just afraid because you saw the consequences? You saw him, you saw the situation, the circumstances around his death. Did you get inspired or did you get petrified? I'm gonna leave you with that. Y'all have a powerful day. Black power. Peace.